From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Harriet Agbe.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, first Nigerian patient of Ebola virus disease declared fit and discharged from hospital. Sensitization over Ebola virus disease gathers momentum across Nigeria. Former military head of state Ibrahim Babangida rules out negotiation with Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau. And Kurdish forces, backed by US airstrikes, battle to retake Mosul Dam from Islamic State fighters in northern Iraq.
On business news tonight, financial market players support the reintroduction of ATM withdrawal charges in the country.
We'll begin tonight with cheering news amidst the Ebola virus disease scare. The first Nigerian patient diagnosed with the virus has been declared fit and discharged from hospital in Lagos. This is according to the Minister of Health, Professor Onyebuchi Chukwu, who told journalists in Lagos this evening that the patient, whose identity has not been revealed, was asked to go home after all the necessary medical examinations were carried out and was certified well. Professor Chukwu also revealed that the drug nanosilver, which was hoped could help in the treatment of patients with the virus, did not pass the required test and therefore was not approved. In the meantime, with aid agencies estimates that West Africa may be in the struggle with the Ebola virus disease for a while, Nigeria appears determined to give the scourge the fight it deserves. States which have not recorded any Ebola case are planning to keep it that way through enlightenment campaigns and modified behavior. Our correspondent, Mary Alale Yusuf, reports.
Since the Ebola virus disease was declared an international emergency of global concern, states across the country have been coming up with different programs of sensitization and precaution. The Ebola virus outbreak is changing the way people and governments behave.
She told me that the ambulances that they are using at the moment.
Although Osun State has not recorded any Ebola casualty, the state government appears to be on high alert with a measure to reduce the influx of tourists for this year's Osun Osogbo annual festival. At this press conference, the committees formed hands.
Scaling down this year's celebration of the Osun Osogbo festival is a sacrifice we must make.
Hotels and restaurants are not left out.
To restaurants, hotels, and all whatnot to prevent, to be very careful about handling, and then to alert us if there are visitors in their hotels.
In Port Harcourt, it is a sensitization program where this large crowd, most of them women, are giving basic information about Ebola. The program ends, and it seems the message has caught on.
With what I have learned here today, I can also go out and reach people at large and let them know that this is how it is and not the way we have to take salt and those things we are novice, and by doing so you might even kill yourself before the Ebola.
Going up north, an NGO in Kogi State takes to the streets to teach market women protection strategy and distribute free gloves.
You people must not go close to somebody who is very sick, having malaria, and he has been down for 2-3 days. He's not getting better, even though they give a blessing.
Meanwhile, the Kogi State government has come up with a unique idea to get down to the grassroots.
Information, education, communication devices have been put in place for purpose of reaching people. We are trying to work on them to translate them into not only the 3 languages that are commonly used there, but to other languages in the state.
The Catholic Church in Makurdi, Benue State, has barred its members from taking corpses of relatives to church for funeral masses, except where death certificates have been issued by certified medical personnel. The diocese, in a statement, also made adjustments to two aspects of the Mass. The Holy Communion will now be served in the hands instead of on the tongue, and the sign of peace, which usually involves handshakes, will now be expressed without contact.
We have been assured that our greatest enemies in these trying times are lack of information, panic which may lead to insensible actions, and not acting on the information we know. With more people and organizations making sure that Nigerians fight the Ebola virus disease with the necessary tools, we may see the end of this episode sooner than later. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
Former military head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, has thrown his weight behind the federal government's decision not to negotiate with the terrorist group Boko Haram. The general made this view known during an interactive session with journalists in the Niger State capital, Minna, ahead of his 73rd birthday, while urging Nigerians not to politicize the issue of the abducted Chibok girls. General Babangida said efforts should be to coordinate General Babangida said efforts should be coordinated to bring back the girls alive, and the military is best positioned to achieve this.
It's over 120 days since the kidnap of the Chibok girls from their school hostel, but the discourse surrounding them is far from over. Joining his voice this time around is the former military president, Ibrahim Babangida. He had an interactive session recently with journalists at his home in Minna, describing the insurgency in some parts of the country as a passing phase of the nation's development.
There will be Nigeria in 1,000 years' time. And therefore, it's everybody you find throughout, if you follow the history of this country. Every administration from Tafawa Balewa to the current situation, every administration faced one challenge or the other during the course of that time. And this one is not, it cannot be the end. Next administration will have other challenges and so on. The important thing is we, the people, strive hard to overcome the problem and then move forward.
He also gave an insight into why a full military action is not the best option for the rescue of the girls.
I don't believe the federal government should force Sheikh to sit on the table and talk to him. This is my personal opinion. So who do you talk to? Nobody. If there are identified persons who, for one reason or the other, everybody knows them, they are fighting, they come out openly, so this is what they are doing. Yes, that's fair enough, but you don't know whom to talk to. So the federal government really, to be fair to the federal government, whom do they talk to? To believe we should get in there as if we are fighting a war. So you have to get the military ready, the police, the intelligence assets, people involved, and so on. Somebody has to rescue them, and maybe the military is best equipped for this sort of thing. But you will not tell them to go and flush them out.
The former Nigerian leader is very confident that the country will not disintegrate despite the myriad of challenges, and not a few Nigerians will agree with him.
The announced suspension of the resident doctors has continued to receive knocks across the states of the Federation, from Lagos to Ogun, Kaduna and other states. The doctors have condemned the decision, describing it as one that will amount to nothing. They say the action is not only illegal, but also a misplacement of priority by the Ministry of Health. It was a federal government announcement conveyed in a circular to all federal institutions, but the doctors prefer to call it a bombshell. Part of the circular reads, all residency training for doctors is to discontinue henceforth.
Nigerian doctors!
But doctors across the country say it's a directive that will not work. From Ogun State, the Nigerian Medical Association rejects the decision and also the sack of the 16,000 resident doctors.
NMA demands immediate withdrawal of the suspension circular and unconditional reinstatement of the so-called sacked resident doctors. The government should show commitment on our part in resolving the current impasse with the NMA rather than resorting to punitive measures that will only further aggravate the already deplorable situation.
The feeling is the same in Imo State, and during a visit to the Federal Medical Center, Owerri, some of the resident doctors say the action is illegal.
I just hope that the federal government should do the needful and not sacking or suspending resident doctors. That is not the way forward to solving the problem of this strike.
For the vice chairman of the Lagos chapter of the Medical Guild, his worry is where the replacement for those sacked doctors would come from.
For instance, now, the active unit of any teaching hospital is the residents, which means that for now we don't have, or we're suspending all the teaching hospitals. And we are going to now employ contract staffs or local doctors, as they have said, they have stated in the letter, that even make it worse off.
And doctors in Kaduna are also aggrieved and call on the president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, to reconsider the federal government's position.
I think the feeling generally, I think naturally, we will not be happy with that. So, and we think it's an unfortunate development because there's nowhere in the world that a thing like that happens and is tolerated.
The mood is the same in Plateau, Delta, and Borno states. The government circular is clear. This action is not punitive, but one which they believe would help improve performance in the health sector. In part 2, after the break, collection of permanent voter cards begins in some states across the Federation. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.